Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Alisa here, and a lot of things have happened since the last time that we've seen each other. Also, life happened, and as a result of that, I do have quite a large pile of unfinished projects of all sorts of different types, and they just desperately need to be dealt with. So that's exactly what we're doing today. We are finishing up this pile of unfinished projects. So if you have your own pile, or perhaps some mending or upcycling to do, or just something that you want to work on, let's do this together. I'm going to start by sorting these out. Not necessarily sorting them out, I should correct myself, more like finding a project that I want to start with, because from my own personal experience, when you are in front of a really large pile or just a lot of work, finding something that speaks to you, something that excites you, or perhaps an easy project, something that can be done, I don't know, 10, 15, 30 minutes, gives you that boost, just gives you that energy, starts you off on a high note, and everything from there just goes a little bit easier. And I think I have that project. Let's just see what I'm missing on this one. And perhaps you have noticed something else, and that is that we are in a new space. And that's because we have moved. This new workspace is way more spacious than my previous one, so I am really excited. However, we greatly underestimated the amount of time is needed in order to move everything and then unpack and sort of finally settle in, especially with a little baby on your hands and no childcare or family nearby. So as you can see, everything is still in boxes and very much in progress. Now, in terms of this project, I think everything is pretty straightforward, because the only thing that I'm missing here is the waistband, and then of course tidy up all of the loose threads and everything from the construction. I gotta say, I really love this fun fabric, and when done, this is going to be a simple pajama set. As a top is just a straightforward t-shirt, and for the bottoms I have a modified version of my jogger pants, for which I do have a full tutorial. I've made dozens of those because they're just so versatile. One pattern and then you can customize it however you want. And in this case, I just shorten it and make it into shorts. Shorts that you can wear around the house, or shorts for your pajama set. Instead of using the actual fabric of the garment, I'm just using a plain white ribbing for the waistband. And especially for projects like these where waistband is just a rectangle, I don't really use a pattern. I draft the patterns myself anyway, but in this case I don't even use a pattern, because a lot of things will depend on the stretch and recovery of your ribbing, also what kind of elastic is gonna go in, and a couple of other factors. I just sort of take all of that in the account in the moment and do the drafting on the fly. It's funny that I only have such a minor thing left to do on this project, because I started it probably about a month ago. I kid you not. It was way before we moved, and I started it, I almost finished it, and then just things kept happening. Like kids got sick, and then we had to do a pile of documents for closing on the house and this and that, and just everything just kept happening. So I put it aside, and guess what? I forgot about it. So yeah, that's how this pile happened and accumulated. I actually have another pajama set from the same pile, so we're gonna go ahead and finish it as well. This one is missing the waistband and the neckband, so both of these will need to be finished. This knit is buttery soft, it's really pleasant, but funny enough, I did not intend it for a pajama set. I bought it online, and usually everything is really great when I buy fabric online, but once in a while you will get fabric that you just saw on your computer monitor in one way, and then in real life it just does not translate. So that was the case with this fabric, and I decided, you know what, it wasn't really great for the original project that I wanted, but it would be great for a pajama set, so here we are. And now the finished project. Once again, it was just a simple t-shirt for the top and a shortened jogger pant for the bottom, so it's easy peasy. After that, with the best possible timing, as it usually happens in life, we got furniture delivery. And those were 2 dressers that are gonna go in my workroom. So my husband started working on them right away. And that, of course, did interrupt my entire flow of trying to finish up these projects. but it has to be done, right? So after he finished the dressers, I also asked him to put on my green pegboard on the wall so that way I can start organizing some of the things. And while it did feel like a chaos, and it certainly was, 2 projects were finally done from that big massive pile. And you know what? While I have my serger out and everything is sort of set up for that because the boxes are still unpacked and it's just a lot. So while I have it out, we're just going to continue with the serger projects from the pile. So next up, I have this cute little t-shirt that I cut out from my daughter. I did hem it way back when. You can see I was chain stitching over here, haven't even cut it apart, but I haven't put it together. So that's next on the list. And as I was sort of looking through the pile and figuring out what to do next, I also remembered that I started a pajama set for my daughter. Now I did complete the shorts, but I never got to do the t-shirt. And look at this fabric. Isn't this just gorgeous and so sweet? I just love it. This was a gift from my dear sewing friend, actually a dear friend. We met through sewing and then became really good friends. And look at this. Isn't this just so special? So I haven't unpacked yet all of my self-drafted patterns, and I'm thinking, you know what, we're just going to take sort of like a shortcut. This t-shirt has been cut out but hasn't been assembled yet, so before I get to it, I'm just going to use this as a pattern for the top for the pajamas. And with that, we're going to sort of do the 2 birds, 1 stone. At this point, it is pretty self-explanatory. However, one thing that I do have to keep in mind is that I need to add hem allowances as I cut these patterns out, because the pink t-shirt has already been hemmed on both the bottom of the front and back and on the sleeves. While I'm doing this, let me share with you one very quick but quite a useful efficiency trick when it comes to pressing, especially when we're dealing with mirrored pieces, like for example sleeves. First, I start with my pattern pieces facing right sides together, and then I fold up the hem of the sleeve that is facing me and press. Once done, I carefully grab the entire thing, so 2 layers, 2 sleeves, and then I flip it to the other side. Now I can fold up the other hem using the one underneath as a guide. But it's really important to make sure that your sleeves don't move. So if you need to, you can always pin them together so that way it stays accurate. This obviously is not a genius method, and it does not work for every single project out there. But it does make things go a little bit faster when you're batch sewing, especially when you're working on casual projects like this one. Another thing that speeds up the process a little bit in these kind of situations is chain stitching. That's exactly what I'm doing right now for this t-shirt. You can see me pushing the hems through one after another one without the break in the thread. And once done, all I have to do is just separate them. After this, I was just about to start putting the entire t-shirt together, but then I thought to myself that something is missing. So I decided to add one little element into the seam of the sleeve and bodice. That element was going to be a flounce, so I started drafting one. And if you take a look on the screens, you can see that I'm drafting it on dark green fabric, but the final garment is gonna have a gray flounce, and that's because I did change my mind. And I do find that more chaos there is around me, the more indecisive I get when it comes to my sewing projects and my creative projects. So that's that. And after the flounces were in, of course, the last thing is just to finish the neckline, and that's it. Another pajama set is done. While I was at it, of course, I finished the pink t-shirt as well, and here it is. Next up, we have an upcycle of this top. And it looks like a normal top at first glance, right? We have a really pretty tulip sleeve. We have some interesting design with a center seam in the front, and overall it looks just fine. But when we come over to the other side, you will see that the sleeve has been cut and the bottom hem has been shredded. That's because I bought it as a production sample from Fab Scrap. Basically, it's a blind buy, so you don't know what you're getting. And a lot of these production samples do feature these sort of cuts, so that way people cannot resell them further. This is an adult size top, and the color here is beautiful, but it's just not my color. However, do you remember this really fun moth butterfly hoodie that I made for my daughter? The color here matches really well with the color of the hoodie, so I thought of transforming this top into a top for my daughter. I already compared the sizes of the shirts for my daughter with this top, and there should be enough fabric in order to transform it. So I'm going right to it and start by cutting it at the seams. Once the side seams are cut, next I'm removing the sleeves. And once the sleeves are out, I'm also cutting the shoulder seams. Let me show you what I got. So here's the front, the back, and the sleeves. This is the moment where I was met by a very unpleasant surprise. Take a look. I'm folding the pattern piece in half right at the center seam, and look at this discrepancy in the size and the cut of the pattern pieces. And the back pattern piece was the same story. It was cut off grain and uneven. This is the prime example of what gives ready-to-wear such a bad rep. Alright, all disappointment aside, I had a slim fit t-shirt pattern handy for my daughter, so I decided to use it by adding a couple of adjustments. First of all, I decided to use the original neckline of the top, so I scooted the pattern all the way up. Then I added a little bit of extra ease at the side seam. I also liked the idea of a curved hem, but because the original hem was shredded, I couldn't use it, so I just had to draft a new one. I did exactly the same steps for the back pattern piece, but for the sleeve, first I have to separate it, and each one of the parts is already hemmed on the bottom, so I would like to utilize that. But when I take a sleeve pattern and place it on top, you can see that there's barely enough for the cap of the sleeve. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take just that regular sleeve that I drafted for this pattern, and then I will slash it right down the middle. That is going to give me the ability to open it up, and it will do two things. Number one, it will create that beautiful curved hem on the bottom, which will go really well with the hem that we already have, and it will let me fit the sleeve into the fabric that we have. And on the bright side, it is also going to create a beautiful flutter sleeve. Now I must say and warn that this is a quick and dirty version of a slash and spread method. The original version, the original method would require doing multiple slashes because that is going to spread the sleeve more equally. But today we're just doing it on the fly, so this will do. Also, if you have noticed, in order to fit the pattern into this fabric, I had to overlap a little bit the pattern pieces, which ate up a bit of the length of the cap sleeve. So I will need to reduce the armhole in order for the sleeve to fit into it. From here, we have sort of like the standard procedure. I started by hemming the pattern pieces first because we feature a curved hem, then sewing them at the side seams and shoulder seams, and after that, inserting the sleeves. So now, let's take a look at the final result. Next in my pile is this Pokemon fabric. Now, I haven't even started a project out of it, but the original idea was to make a pair of shorts for my daughter because currently she is in her Pokemon phase, and this is the perfect fabric, and she also needs a pair of shorts. However, now that I'm looking at it, the print is sort of medium size, so I have to be really careful in terms of pattern placement. It's also not really girly, so I would like to add some sort of girlier elements to these shorts, and there's just a lot of things that could go wrong with this seemingly simple project. So I don't know just yet. I might need to do a little bit more thinking on this one. Perhaps this is for the late night sewing session. So I might just put this away for right now and come back to it in a little bit, maybe in this video, maybe in the next one. I just don't want to make any rash decisions because obviously I don't have a lot of fabric. I just want to make the right call style-wise and construction-wise as well. So that way it's not a huge headache. So with that, I think let's move on to the next project, and here I have another sort of like an upcycle. Now this adult size dress comes from a rescue box from ThredUp. Now it is also a blind buy, so you don't know what you're getting, and I don't particularly recommend it, and I'll talk more about it in my next video where we're going to be discussing where else do I get my fabric scraps. The dress is not my style, but I think that it could definitely have a second life. So I spoke to my daughter and we both agreed that she prefers to wear shorts and pants, and as much as she likes skirts and dresses, she just does not find them comfortable, especially for the activities that she likes, and she just loves monkey bars and gym and whatnot. But she also doesn't have a single dress as of this very moment, and I think it would be nice to have just something very special for those special occasions like the first day of school or somebody's birthday party and whatnot. And this is such a sweet print, and it could be made into a gorgeous little dress, so I think that's what we're gonna go with. Now, as always with kids clothes, the task is twofold. Number one, you have to make it fun. Number two, you also have to make it comfortable, because for kids, that's the priority number one. And did I say that we're going for a dress? Well, scratch that, because my daughter walked in and told me that, you know, I think that a two-piece is better, which I do agree with her, because then you get to wear the top and the skirt separately, and you definitely get more use out of them. The skirt of the dress here is a circle skirt, and also it has a zipper down the center back seam. So I think for the mini version, we're gonna go for a circle skirt as well. And right now, I'm simply cutting it at the center back seam where the zipper is at. So let me show you what the skirt part looks like when it's separated. So here it is. And there's also the second part to it, the underskirt of that red tulle. And I think I'm going to include it as well because, you know, it's a fun element. From here, I took the skirt part, folded it at the center front, and started drafting right on top of the fabric. As mentioned, we're also gonna go for the circle skirt, and it's going to be gathered with elastic, because that, in my experience, lasts a lot longer than something on a zipper, specifically for children's wear. From here, I also repeated the same steps for the underskirt, and after that, everything is pretty straightforward. I just had to do the center back seam of the skirt, connect both the skirt and the underskirt, and then add elastic. And you'd be thinking that this is gonna go real easy and real quick, but not so fast. The culprit here is in the fact that the bodice doesn't really have much fabric in it, and all I have left is the bodice and the little piece that I cut off from the skirt part. So from the little that I have left, I'll have to figure out what and how to construct a top that would go nicely with the skirt. So for the base of the top, I decided to take a dress pattern that I drafted last year for Project Dresser Girl. So let me show you how that dress looked like. It didn't really have any sleeves, it did have straps. However, I would like to have sleeves on this top. So that is definitely going to be something to problem solve. First, however, I'm going to trace the top part of the pattern. From there, I played with the pattern a little bit until I got this, the front, the back with a curved hem and a raglan sleeve that is going to be gathered. That raglan sleeve was based on the availability of the fabric, particularly this piece. After that, I started taking apart the entire bodice carefully, step by step, undoing all of the seams because every bit of fabric is going to matter. I was lucky that the bodice had a facing, which gave me that extra fabric. So let me show you what fabric pieces I have. Not a lot, right? Yeah, this was the point at which I thought to myself that maybe this is not happening, because oh, this is going to be really hard to pull off. And sometimes people will say that it's impossible to make things out of such small amount of fabric, so I must be hiding some fabric somewhere. But I promise you, what you see is what I see. And I'll tell you this, a lot of times that small amount of fabric that you have to work with can be compensated by a clever arrangement of those fabric pieces. The only problem is that it takes a lot of time. In video, of course, it all goes much faster. So after a long amount of deliberations, this is how I'm going to be assembling my front and back pattern pieces. Now, making a top out of this many fabric pieces does feel a little choppy, unless there is a design element that sort of marries it all together. For the back, I don't necessarily mind a little bit of choppiness, so I left it as is. But for the front, I decided to grab the straps of the original bodice, take them apart for that extra bit of fabric, then use a rolled hem on my serger with a pretty red thread in it, then gather it and turn it into a ruffle. So this is what the top part of the front pattern piece is going to look like. While I had my serger all set up on a rolled hem, I also cut out the sleeves and hemmed them as well. Then of course I had more serging, more pressing, more top stitching, and after a little while it was time to add the bottom part to the pattern pieces. The back is just gonna go straight, but for the front, the fabric piece that I'm using already has a curve. So I thought, you know what? Why don't we just use it as is, and it's going to be another interesting design element. Following that, I have to attach the sleeves, finish the side seams, finish the hems, and finish the neckline. I'm really lucky here that the print is so busy because I kid you not, the bias tape for the neckline is pieced out of 6 pieces. With that, let's take a look at the final result. I gotta say that it's a nice stack of projects that we got done today, right? Well, over multiple days, so I don't want to give you an impression that I got it all done in one day, but I still have quite a bit to go. So I have a t-shirt that I had cut out but not put together, another top upcycle, of course the Pokemon fabric that I did show you a little bit earlier, and a pair of pants that needs to be put together. So I think we might be meeting for part number 2 of this video. And I want to say thank you so much for sewing together with me. I hope that you got something done as well. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy, thoughtful sewing. I'll see you very soon. Bye!